What's up, everyone? Welcome to the March 8th edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ChipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Today, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on FanDuel for tonight's 6-game NBA DFS slate. As always, be sure to tune in to the deeper dive and live before lock in the 2 hours leading up to tip on the Awesemo YouTube channel. We'll have more up-to-date information, player projections, ownership projections, and also possibly some injury news that we are still waiting on. Could be resolved by then. So as always, be sure to tune into those shows. But for now, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top options as things currently stand. Coming in at number 5, CJ McCollum, shooting guard only, which makes it a little bit more difficult to get to him. But he's only projected for 14% ownership. He has a 16% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Since joining the Pelicans, McCollum has averaged 1.24 FanDuel points per minute. He has a 27.8% usage rate, a 25.8% assist percentage. He looks like a strong option in what's likely to be a high-scoring game tonight against the Grizzlies. And there's some added upside because Brandon Ingram is questionable. If Ingram were to be ruled out, McCollum's ownership probably will increase, but his rates would likely increase as well, and he would project even better. Number 4, Marcus Morris has small forward and power forward eligibility at only $5,000. He's projected for 14% ownership with a 17% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Morris is likely to give you around 30 minutes in tonight's game against the Golden State Warriors. Without Paul George on the floor this year, Morris has averaged 0.89 FanDuel points per minute. So while the Clippers do run a pretty deep rotation and Morris isn't the best point per minute guy, he's not a bad fantasy producer, and he's likely to be out there enough to pay off a $5K salary. Number 3, Jaron Jackson Jr. has power forward and center eligibility. He's only $6,100, and he's projected for about 20% ownership with a 23% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Jackson has averaged 1.19 FanDuel points per minute this season. There's always a lot of volatility with Jackson because, for one, he frequently is in foul trouble, and 2, even when he's not in foul trouble, sometimes he still only plays 27 or 28 minutes, depending on the game and the situation. But he's a good fantasy producer. He has plenty of block upside, defensive stat upside, which is really valuable on FanDuel as well. And he appears to be a bit underpriced for tonight's matchup against the Pels. Number 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo, small forward and power forward eligible at $11,900. Giannis is projected for about 27% ownership with a 31% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's the best point per minute fantasy producer on tonight's slate. He's averaged 1.71 FanDuel points per minute this season, and he has an excellent matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Milwaukee is a 14-point favorite on the road, so there's certainly some blowout risk here, but assuming that Oklahoma City is able to hang in the game long enough for Giannis to play into the fourth quarter, he should have no issues producing a massive stat line tonight against OKC. Number 1, Lamela Ball. $7,800 point guard. He's projected for 32% ownership, but has about a 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Ball's another player who has been really volatile lately, both in terms of his production, but also his playing time, because he's frequently getting in foul trouble, but also even in games where he's not in foul trouble, you're seeing like 30 to 32 minutes pretty frequently. That's not ideal. We would like to get Ball back to playing 34, 35 minutes like he was earlier in the season, but the salary has adjusted as a result. He's averaged 1.29 FanDuel points per minute overall this season. He has a good matchup against the Brooklyn Nets, and he's just a little bit underpriced, so he looks like a very strong tournament option, even at relatively high ownership. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on FanDuel as things currently stand: number 5, CJ McCollum; number 4, Marcus Morris; number 3, Jaron Jackson Jr.; number 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo; and number 1, Lamela Ball.